Hey everyone, I'm Chris from Nomad Airsoft Team, now out of Indiana, and you're listening to Call Your Hits, a Storm Riders Airsoft podcast.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. As you heard in the intro, my guest today is an old friend of the show, Chris from Nomad Airsoft. You love to see him on the show. Chris recently attended Operation Red Arrow 6 at HTK Airsoft in Indiana, which is where Chris is based out of now. And it's one of their longest running annual events that they do, but it's played over 3 days. It's open to players of all levels. They have this really cool field with buildings and vehicles and wooded areas and all the stuff that you love to see at an airsoft field. But more, not necessarily more importantly than that, but also a cool aspect to this conversation today is that Chris had the opportunity to run as the overall faction commander for the TAN team for 2 out of the 3 days of this event. And I'm really excited to get his perspective on that because for a lot of our conversations and some of the things we've talked about on the show, just in more general, we think a lot about what it's like to run, your squad, maybe even your section or your platoon, however, what we want to call it. But being able to run the whole works of it, being the IC, right, is something we haven't had a chance to talk about a whole lot. So I'm super, super excited to get into it. But before we get into all that, Chris, big move for you, moving a few states, I guess, northwest from where you were before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was, it was kind of hectic, but it wasn't too bad. We we had so much stuff moving from North Carolina. We had to do movers, a big U-Haul, and a U-Haul trailer. So we had
Yeah.
like three different things. And yeah, it was whatever 10 hours ish. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, about that. Um,
So this field now where you are, like HTK, like is that your local now? Like
yeah,
is that nearby you?
yeah, it's an hour from where I am in Bloomington.
Okay.
It's down in a place called Lagodi. Um, and that's their other fields either a little bit closer, like same distance, but they're not as good.
Gotcha.
The reviews on them are crap, and just like the field is not as good.
Was this your first, I guess it wasn't your first time playing at this field, but it was the first event at this field. So how did that work out for you? Did you just roll up and you're like, "Hey, I'm Chris from Nomad Airsoft. I want to run your command at your next game." Like how did that sort of shake out?
So I was looking up online places to go,
Mm-hmm.
and I found them, looked them up, and I was like, okay, this looks cool. We'll go check it out. They only run though. So the owner is basically just a guy who owns like 160 acres of farmland, and his house is like across the street from the field. You literally
Nice.
park like in his like driveway on his like front lawn when you play. And so went down there, and I went down there 2 weeks early before they even opened. They usually like play April through the fall, and then I guess they stop the outdoor stuff in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he has an indoor field, and that's what they run a lot. I'm gonna try to talk him out of that though, which goes along with kind of what happened. I went down there 2 weeks early. I pulled in, there was nobody there, and I was like, maybe I'm just really early. Got out, and he goes, "Hey." I was like, "Hey, I'm looking for HTK Airsoft." He goes, "This is it." He goes, "You're about 2 weeks too early though." And I was like, "Oh." I told him, I just moved here, blah blah blah. I told him like where I came from. We got to talking. Told me about the backstory. His son Harrison, like 7 years ago, was like watching Novrich on YouTube. Got all excited. Like went to his dad. Was like, "I want the sniper rifle." Seen this guy like Novrich, whatever. Dad got on the sniper rifle. I guess the sniper rifle like broke. Emailed Novrich. And they were like, "Oh, like we're busy. We're at what? Like it was an airsoft con out at Evike in California." The dad was like, "Let's just go." So they flew out to California. The dad and the son and like waited in line to meet Navrich. Told him like they emailed him. Navrich like, oh yeah, like I remember. And he goes, here, anybody got like a multi tool, and like fixed the kid's sniper like right away. So told him about my background and everything, and he goes, so have you heard of Balahack? I'm like, yeah, that's like our main field. And he goes, okay. He goes, do you have like 15 minutes? He took me on a tour of his entire property in like their gator, and like showed me the field we played on, which is like the main field. And then he showed me the 120, 130 acres of like the field that he wants to develop. And he goes, I want this to be better than Balahack. And I was like, I mean, he's got the field space, he's got the terrain for it. Like he can do it. So that's how it got down. Then he told me about, Red Arrow 6, and he told me they usually start and they do a big thing around Easter called like their egg extravaganza.
Yeah.
And it's like they're an event and they go and like hide Easter eggs on the field and stuff. So that's when I went down to actually play for the first time, was their egg extravaganza, where it was two weeks ago on Saturday. And basically it was, they go down there, or I went down there, and like they hide eggs on the field to have like prizes and stuff like that. Normal things, but you play at airsoft on the day, and if you find them, like whatever, cool stuff. But the like person like putting on the day and everything like that ended up being his son, which I didn't know about until after the game, after like that whole day when I talked to him, because they did a raffle that day too. But I was talking because he told me like I should talk to Harrison about like a leadership position when he was giving me that tour, because I told him about like how I've run as a squad leader and RTO like Jimmy and I have for American Milsim, stuff like that. And he goes, see if Harrison needs any help with leadership, like it'd be great. So went to talk to him after that day. I talked to Harrison. He was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Let me get your number, blah, blah, blah. And then just kind of everything kind of took off from there. Like Harrison and I have, like, it's crazy, like become close, like as far as like, talking like airsoft stuff. Like I told him I wrote a milsim. He wants me to like, we're going to try to put on my milsim at his field and stuff. I had ideas, but basically he's like, yeah, we have a guy who's running as commander for the TAN team. He goes, he'll need a second in command. Like, that'd be awesome if you could do it. And I was like, yeah, not a problem. Like, too easy. Yeah. So that's kind of where it went, was I literally just walked up and asked. And like that, like they're like a nice, like the whole family like is involved with everything. He's got the owner, Jason, has two, I want to say two, maybe more than two kids, but two older kids. Harrison, who's 20, is one who's kind of running everything. And then Kate, who's 19. And she was actually the commander for the opposite team.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. They both do like bodybuilding and stuff too. So like she's super shredded and he's just like massive. But they're speed softers.
Yeah, I saw that on their website. Like they're yeah.
And you know how I am with speed softing, like complete opposite of what I am. But like they do milsims and stuff too. But a lot of the like gear they wear is like, the dye masks with the like red tinted, blue tinted like visors, like I Heart Speed QB and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And
all
like,
the stuff you love.
All the bright colored guns and everything. That's just irks me. But Harrison actually, like, for him being a speed softer, he did an amazing job putting on a milsim.
Yeah,
like it was pretty cool. And like he basically like he sent me like the rule set and everything before, and he's like, let me know if you have any suggestions or like critiques or anything, like we can figure this out. So it was really, really fun.
So was this like, so I mean, we use the term milsim like a lot, right? Like, was this a milsim in the true sense of a milsim, or was it basically like a large like objective based sort of airsoft, kind of like if we think about AMS, right? When we played at Iron Horse, like that like had the name Milsim in it, but it's not really a Milsim, if you know what I mean. Like it's not, like organized like Milsim West, for example, or Stag Ops or whatever. So it leans. I was reading on their website, like they appeal to like every sort of player level. So I guess it leans more on the on the AMS side of the Milsim spectrum versus Milsim West. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Funny thing is, who's the guy who owns and runs Milsom West? What's his name?
Bo?
No, that's American Milsom.
Oh
Josh.
no, sorry. Yes, yeah.
Josh. He's actually been out to that property and been on the same tour that I have.
Oh, awesome.
They have also had Airsoft Alphonse out there who's played games with them out on that property. So people like larger people in the airsoft community know them and like are friends with them and stuff. I never knew that until I obviously talked to Jason when I went on that tour. But the way they like to run things, they kind of like it to be a mix between, I would say, like an AMS game, and then I guess the best other way to compare it is like a Valkyrie game, which is like Valkyrie Airsoft is another one that was out in North Carolina that they do big events there. And it turns into more of like a team deathmatch kind of like day play with like the whole field basically. But like it's a little different the way they run it. And the reason they do it that way is because I think Harrison was saying they have about, I think like 78 people pre-registered for the event. And then they usually make up the other numbers in walk-ons.
Okay.
So like, yeah, they're definitely a like Southern Indiana, like local field. And that's
Gotcha.
what they like, cater to. So they need to basically be careful of how they structure it because they can't do it like a hardcore milsim because you won't get that many people based on like just location
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah, and you can't walk on for that kind of event either.
Yeah.
So, what was this event like? Like, what was the overall objective, the main gameplay, and like just get into it a bit, like what your planning was like, and your role as commander overall.
Yeah. So planning, I never met Danny actually until Saturday. So it was structured where there was a Friday night game, which was 8 to 10 p.m. And then Saturday was 10 to 1 with a break. I want to say it was like 1 to 2:30 was the break, like for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was 2:30 to 5:30 was play. Then there was a break, and then it was 8 to 10 Saturday night, and then 10 to 12 on Sunday.
Okay.
They usually get a decent amount of people. Like they usually are in like the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been a lot of rainstorms recently in Indiana, like tons of rainstorms. I know like people who like live close to the Midwest, like watching all the storms come through. Like the last like couple of like probably the last month, we've had like tornado warnings and like tornadoes come through, and then we've had massive like thunderstorms. Like we're having a thunderstorm right now, like tonight. So it kind of like when you get that, it kind of deters the walk-ons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But I think we had probably about 80 people play like through the whole weekend. The Friday night game, the reason they do that is because of the campers.
Mm-hmm.
So they like to do it. They like to put on a night game because of people go out there and camp, like kind of like a warm up. So what Harrison did was he put basically one objective on the field, and it was to hold a building that's basically in the center of the field, and you had to hold that for, I can't remember if it was, I think it was 30 minutes. Yeah, so that was the only objective, was hold that building for 30 minutes, and if you did, they do a cool thing where they actually set off a firework, and that shows like the symbol of like it being held.
Mm-hmm.
And like it doesn't stop the game there. Just what happened was that gave whoever team held it 200 points.
Gotcha.
So Danny wasn't there Friday night, so I led the team. We didn't really have many people. Fun part though is in Indiana, it really doesn't get dark until like, honestly, probably about 8:40 was when like I could use my nods. Um, so like it was light, and even then it was still light. Like 9 o'clock to like 9:15 was really when it was like dark, where like you had to use
Mhm.
flashlights and stuff like that. So we didn't get the building. We got smoked that first night. The other commander on the other team, Kate, who's Jason's daughter, she's a massive speed softer. So right off the bat, her team sprinted. Like classic speed QB, like sprint at the start, like to the objective. And
Mhm.
like I had a lot of the guys who are more like Milsimi type, like not speed soft. And so they had basically beat us to like the line, because how they have the field developed is like the spawns were in the opposite like corners. You have like a large open section, obviously with a bunch of cover and stuff. Then you have a wood line. You have basically an alleyway where like there's three buildings, another wood line, then another open field with a bunch of cover.
Mhm.
So the building that we needed to hold was building 7, which was right in the center of that alleyway. So you can, if you push to that wood line, you can pretty much hold people back. And like the the field goes like on one side goes like this, and our spawn was at the bottom. So you had to run up this massive hill.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun. I did it, and I was exhausted at the end of that. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I haven't worked out or played airsoft in like months because of this move. Like, I need to do this again. So like, we got there, and like it was just it was like we took losses, and they pushed us back, but they didn't actually end up getting the objective until like 9:30, 9:40 at night. So like
Mhm.
we held them from like completing it until like almost the end, which was good. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the night game, was basically just big team deathmatch warm up with that one objective.
So you're showing up for this night game like it's your first. You haven't even talked to the other guy who's supposed to be one of the commanders, right? Your joint commander. So you're there by yourself. You've got whatever players you've got. Um, how was it for you? Sort of just like basically even just like level setting with all the other players who are now basically like you're going to run these players, you're going to run these squads or this squad. I don't know exactly how many guys you had. How did you organize like hastily, right? Because fundamentally that's what we're talking about. It's sort of like, okay, we need like a bit of a quick plan, like where you've knowing you, I know you probably gave it some thought like ahead of time, but it's not until you get there that you figure out what you're working with and what your resources are. What was your thought process like, and how did you work with the people who were there, basically not knowing anybody?
Um, so we didn't know any of the objectives ahead of time. That was what Harrison actually did very smartly. So we didn't know objectives until we were at our respawns. He would drive over in the gator, tell us what we needed to do, and that was it. So we didn't know until then. So there was no pre-planning whatsoever. So it's kind of like he tells you your objectives, and you got like 5-8 minutes to like figure out kind of what you want to do until he starts the game. So I sent the majority of our guys to the top of the hill, and then some along the tree lines, and some down at like the bottom of the hill, closer to our spawn, just so we didn't really get cut off. But again, that hill run it takes a little bit of time versus their spawn to get to like that fighting point. And so we basically got hit as soon as we were up there. Our guys were exhausted. Like we had to get into a firefight immediately. And then probably 10 minutes into the game, I get a call on the radio from Harrison that told me the objective was building 7 and to hold it for half an hour. So it was kind of fun the way he did it, as like Fragos basically coming mid game of like different objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you know it was essentially just kind of like team deathmatch, unlimited respawns. We had buddy medics. The way the medic system was buddy medics first. So you had two medics. The first one was a buddy medic. Anybody could come and tie a bandage on you. The second one had to be designated medic, which I want to say there were like 9 on each team. A medic had to come and put a band on you. Now, this is the interesting part, and it shows how open he is to like rule changes and new people. I went and told him the day I got there, I was like, hey, I had an idea. I should have told you earlier. I totally blanked on it until now. I told him, what's your thought? I said, the way AMS runs games is platoon leaders and commander are medics no matter what. So I told him, I was like, what if you made, the commander and the second in command medics? They have the ability to be a medic without actually taking up 2 of your medic spots. And he goes, yeah, I like that. He's like, I wanted to do something like that too. And he goes, I was thinking of like giving you guys like the high vis armbands and stuff. And I told him, I was like, AMS does it a sweet way where they basically give you like a business card size white card of like what you are. And like, that's what you wear. That way it's not a giant thing on your arms. He goes, yeah. He goes, we'll definitely do that for next time. But he was open to the medic thing and he implemented it right away. He was like, I like it. Good call. So it was nice. So that way Danny and I were able to medic our other guys as well.
How did you organize like your squads and determine your medics and all this kind of stuff? Did you let the players sort of self-select?
Yeah, it was just like, hey, who wants to be a medic? Like who's fast? Who wants to run around? Two guys were like, I'm fast, I can run. Like that's cool. Like that's who we kind of made medics. We didn't really break down into squads, just because it's so hard to do that like on the field without like pre-planning.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So it was kind of just like, hey, like I need a group of guys to go here. I need a group of guys to go here. Like people would volunteer and like people wanted to do certain things. And like, then it was also based on like, for some of the stuff, and this gets more into Saturday, but for some of the stuff, it was like what replica you were running. If guys had LMPs or if guys had, a sniper rifle, like it was easy to kind of place them in certain areas just because we needed the support there or, we needed them covering long range.
Yeah. So moving into Saturday now, so you had three gaming periods, like in the morning, after lunch, and then after supper, like in the evening or what have you. That's when you had, I'm assuming, the bulk of your players, and Danny was there to help you, run like co-commander or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Did you spend any more time organizing your troops on that second day, or did you just continue running it the way that you were doing it there?
No, it was the same way. Danny basically did the same way I did. The smart thing, though, what Danny and I did is, so the second day was a little bit different. Harrison had objectives actually on the field mixed in with fragos that were coming into us of like what we needed to do. One of the first ones which we got told was they took caution tape and caution taped off 2 buildings. One was ours, one was theirs. And we had to have 2 people, which were designated as engineers, carry a case. They were the only ones allowed in that building. And they had to go plant the case and hold that building like for 10 minutes. If they got shot, they, basically had to go respawn and the timer would reset.
Okay.
But that building, that timer had to go basically for 10 minutes and then the caution tape came off and players were able to go inside that building. But nobody could go in that building other than the engineers while that caution tape was up there. So that was the objective, and you got points for doing that. But if you did it first, you got an extra certain amount of points. I think it was like an extra 200 or whatever. The other thing was he put like black like hard cases, like Pelican cases around the field, ammo boxes that are like giant like wooden like legitimate like 5.56 Army issued like ammo boxes, sandbags that were worth points, and then like styrofoam like medical coolers that were worth points. So those were hidden all around the field, and if you found them, one, you'd get your team points with the sandbags, the medical coolers, and then the Apache cases. The fun thing about the black hard Apache cases where you'd open it up and there was a piece of paper that he had written on that said like plus certain amount of points, but some of them also had airstrike written on them, so that was how you gained your airstrikes for the day. For the whole milsim. And then you also had the ammo cases, which he had numbered. They're wooden like ammo boxes, which he had numbered. If you found 2 of the same number, you got an airdrop, which was basically you could choose a building or a location on the field. The admins would go clear out an area, and you could airdrop, I think, 5 guys into that area.
Wow.
And then you also had the ability was once you hit 1,000 points, you gained a mobile respawn for 20 minutes that you could place at 2 locations.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me because, like, just as a side note, from a game organization standpoint, it's so interesting to me how game organizers will gravitate to like similar ideas everywhere, because like a lot of these concepts, like you open up a case and there's stuff, that's stuff that we do at our events, but I've never talked to this guy. And like I didn't get like I had this idea myself using QR codes that I took that idea from AMS because they have QR codes for other stuff, and I'm like, oh, but I could do QR code for a case instead of having it, like all this kind of stuff. It's just really interesting as a side note to hear that, because it's like, yeah, there's so many similarities, and what you can do on a field of like 40 players like we have is not dissimilar from what you can do on a field that's like 30 acres with like hundreds of players instead, right?
Yeah.
So what were your like what is the main objective for you, like on the second day, like when you're first hitting the field, like what was your main objective, and like how did you organize your people to do that? And also as a side note, like how did you maintain command and control over your people if you didn't have designated squads and stuff like that?
So Danny and I did it a cool way. Was Danny and I were on a comms channel with the two of us and Harrison, because he was acting like overall like person, like when we had air strikes and like calling in for objectives and stuff. And then so one of us would stay back to call up to Harrison when like boxes and bags and objectives basically came back. We could call it in for points. The other one would go and kind of like be in the field and be like the on-field commander running everything. And you know, when one guy got tired, wherever he got hit, like we'd rotate out. So it was fun to do it that way. That's how we started off doing it. And like people would go out, like we told them like find ammo cases, find boxes. The other thing that he did, that Harrison did, which was cool, was you were able to capture commanders and second in commands. Commanders are worth 500 points and second in commands were worth 300. The way you had to capture them was you had to, hit them, and there was a 3-minute bleed out. During that 3 minutes, you had to two people had to have hands on, and you had to walk them back to your spawn and hold them for 10 minutes. But they could come and like while you're walking them back, they could hit you and like take their commander back, or they could attack your spawn while you're in that 10 minutes and take her back or him back. So it was fun to kind of have that aspect, and that's really what we wanted to focus on. Was we wanted to capture Kate like bad, because she was talking mad crap the whole time, and everything. Like she wanted to capture Danny and I like really badly too, and so it was fun. It kind of added a unique perspective for the commanders to kind of get involved more than just kind of like staying back and running a team. It also got in your head like, I can't go up, or if I do go up, like I gotta be careful of like if I go down, like where I am and when I go down. Never got captured.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go.
Never got captured. Danny got captured twice on Saturday. And I think Kate got captured once on that Saturday, and then like 3 times that Saturday. We owned the night. Saturday night they got stomped on. Granted, the entire command team, me, Danny, and like his 2 buddies, like, all 4 of us had nods, so like pay to win on that one.
Yeah.
And then like the Sunday day, we captured Kate another 3 times. Like it was just stupid. But anyways, like the first part of the Saturday, like we got hammered bad. Like she took a ton of boxes, ton of ammo cases, ton of bag. Like she got a lot of the objectives. And she captured Danny once. So we were only, I think it was like, whatever. We were down maybe 30 points. Like for the first section of Saturday, like part of the way. And then Danny gets captured. And then we're down 530 points. So the capturing the commanders made it a giant swing in the points. And like Danny, like I'm trying to raise him on the radio. And I'm like, Danny, what's going on? Like, where are you? Because like at that point we had both just kind of like gone out because we could have gone back to spawn and like done a recount with Harrison of like all of our like point stuff and made sure he had the right number. But Dane and I ended up going out because like we were basically getting pushed back really bad towards our spawn. Like they were cutting us off essentially in an L, like where we could not really move out of our spawn much. And so I looked at Danny and I was like, I got a dumb idea. And Danny goes, oh, I'm sorry, that was after lunch. Danny got captured before. I don't know how before lunch he got how. All I heard was over the radio was, "Oh God, there's so much blood. Help!" And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And so I went on the radio to Harrison. I was like, "He's like, hey, just to let you know, Danny's been captured." And I was like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, no, because I knew how much the points are worth, and I was like, that's not good. Like we haven't even captured Kate yet. And so he's like, you can go get him. And so I did the classic me, like because like a lot of players that kind of like on our team especially had like left the field at like 12:30, like for because they're I guess tired, hungry, whatever. But it ended at 1. So I did the classic me, let the rifle hang, and I just slowly walked and strolled. And I had like 1 mag of ammo left. I was like, the mag that was in my replica was the last one I had. Luckily, it was a full mag, so it was whatever, 130 rounds. And like, I'd pass the enemy team, and they're like, you know, are you hit? And I was like, I have 1 mag left, so. But I wouldn't tell them what I was doing. So I just casually strolled, and like they could have shot me. Like all I said was I had 1 mag left. Like, don't be dumb. Make sure.
Yeah.
1 round, pop it in like my leg, my chest, my plate carrier, like whatever. Like I would be like, oh, like nice. Nobody did anything. So I casually strolled, and I was strolling to where like Harrison was. He goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Danny's captured," and he goes, "Go that way." And he kind of like gave me the hookups. Like I went around like the tree line that lined like the back section of the woods, and I went around, still in bounds. My feet did not touch the road, which you can't go on the road, but like there's that patch of grass. Slowly snuck up. I didn't realize there were stairs leading up to their fob, by the way. So I like crawled through like this thicket of like woods, and I was like, oh, great, I don't think they're gonna hear me. I popped out and I came up on their spawn, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There were like 8 of them, and it's just me alone. And I'm like, well, this is gonna be fun. And but they didn't. Nobody paid attention. And I just went up there and just went. I just started hitting everybody. I got 7 guys. The 8th guy and I traded. I was so, and that's where this welt on my head came from. Went right in between my helmet and my glasses. And I was like, are you kidding me? I almost got this. And like, I looked at Danny, I was like, I tried. And he goes, hey man, that was a great effort. like the game ended there, and we were like, okay, so we're whatever 530 at that point. I think it was like 580 points down. Broke for lunch. They had a taco truck that came out, which that was super good. But like broke for lunch, and then we came back. I think at that point, Kate had 2 airstrikes and we had 1. We had used one of ours, so we only had 1 left. She had 2 left. And so we came back, came on the field. And I think after that, more people were kind of like hyped and like ready to play. I think they realized like how the game was run, how Danny and I were running the team. Like they were like ready to go and like wanted to get on the field and play. So it was nice to kind of see that positive reaction to like, hey, we're losing, but like it's not over. We can still, do this.
Yeah. And I mean, how you get people to respond to a losing situation, as I talked about on the podcast last week, is, super important, right? Because if you're losing and people feel like, oh, well, there's nothing you can do, and like it just that just sucks for everybody, as opposed to being like, all right, we're losing, but we're gonna make some counterplay here, we're gonna do some stuff. And my understanding, as a bit of a sneak peek, but it worked out in your favor in the long run too, which I'm sure for your players is a really good experience, because they're like, well, oh, we were losing, but actually we turned it around and we ended up winning, right? And
Yeah.
that's cool, right?
Yeah, and that it was when we came back on the field after like Harrison redid a points count. I think we were down by 470. So Dane and I were both just like, we went to the thing. We're like, hey, find objectives, but like, guys, we're down like one Kate capture. If we capture her, we're in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we went out again. They found the boxes, found the styrofoam. Like they had the engineers do the same thing where we had to go to a building and clear it and everything. And then there were other objectives, and I can't remember what they were. And that's when we got again pushed hard at our spawn again. And so I looked at Danny and I went, I have a dumb idea, but it could work. And he goes, okay. And I looked at him and I was like, give me like 3, 4. I was like, give me like 3 of our shooters. And I was like, I'm going to go through the woods completely to their side because nobody was really in the woods at that point. Like, I'm going to go through the woods and I'm going to flank them as long as you keep them distracted and busy, like on this side pushing us at our spawn. He goes, that's fine. We did that and we dropped like 4 guys going through the woods. There was a sniper that like all of a sudden, like we're walking and I hear, whew, and I was like, oh, I was like, I dropped behind a tree and I was like, where all of us were just like, there's a sniper because it was a single shot. Like you could tell, and we were like, okay, where is this guy? This guy was hidden crazy well. We ended up getting him and like taking him out. And I'm like talking to Danny on the radio, like telling him everything. And he goes, I know I'm behind you. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, what happened over there? He goes, we took it back. It's fine. Like I got other people dealing with it. He goes, I want to do cool stuff. And I was like, all right. So what we did was the way the field was lit, and there's a hayloft basically on their side of the field. We snuck 5 guys through the woods while engaging people, taking them out, and snuck us all the way to their end of the field and went up in the top of the hayloft. We're like, it's just a staircase that goes up. And 3 of us held down that hayloft. They had no idea where we were. And there was a giant window. And like Harrison could see from like where he was stationed as like the command table, like where it was. And we were just like, we held that hayloft for probably half an hour behind enemy lines. And like, we were shooting people and taking them out. And they had no idea. They would get hit from the side and they'd be like, they'd look around like, was that friendly? Like, where'd that come from? And like, it was me and Danny and like one of our snipers just chilling in the hayloft, just dropping people. Eventually they figured it out, like, no, that's them. And then Kate found out it was me and Danny in that hayloft. And we had captured her that afternoon. But Danny had also gotten captured. So she really wanted to capture us again. And so she was like, she found out it was me and Danny up there. And like, she was talking to Harris on the radio, who'd relay what she said to us. We were responding, and like, he'd go back, and it was just like basically us talking crap to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And it was fun. But before that, we learned that like when you drop an airstrike, it's like everybody's obliterated. There's no bleed out. You go right back to spawn just because like you're basically disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at Danny. I was like, "We saw that airstrike, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "We should just." Like, because they were actually starting to attack us. And I was like, we should just bring everybody in close and then drop an airstrike right on top of us. He goes,
oh my God.
He goes, killing us too. I'm like, yeah, then we can't be captured. He goes, yeah, good point. So I told Harrison that we were going to do that. And he goes, oh my God. He goes, you're threatening to use an airstrike. He goes, Kate's threatening to use an airstrike. He goes, I'm trying to figure this out. And I was like, hey, it's a win-win for us. We don't get captured if either one drops an airstrike. So, yeah. And so he's laughing and stuff. And then we got like to where we were like bashing like each other, and Kate was like, whatever, like she says like you guys are being babies, and Danny and I were like, hey, we'll do a gunfight if she really wants to. And like he goes, Kate says she wants to use a gunfight. That lasted about 5 minutes. They couldn't get us out of the hayloft, and we were dropping so many of their people. I get a call on the radio. Hey, just to let you guys know, Kate used her airstrike, and you guys are all dead up there. And I was like, well, we can't get captured. So we walked back to spawn, and then we realized, like, most of our team's gone. There were, like, 5 of us left, like, because that was towards the end of the field, because we held it for so long. Mm-hmm. And, like, while we were up there, I was like, if we hold this for the rest of the time, you should give us 50 points. Or you should give us 0.5 points. And Harrison goes, I'll give you 50 points if you hold it for the rest of the time. And like, I was like, once we got killed, I was like, we held it for half. You should give us 25 points. He goes, I'll give you 25 points. But like, we went back to spawn, whatever, you spawn in. Their team made a big push to like, they wanted to capture me and Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear Kate across the entire field yelling, Danny, where are you? Come on. Danny and I had gone behind our fob back into the woods, and we were hiding in the woods because we were like, there's like 4 of our guys left other than like the 2 of us. We're like, we cannot get captured. This is bad. We were like, we need to hold out until the time. There was like probably 10-15 minutes left of like the game. So we're in the woods, we're hiding. They make a big push. Like they start throw grenades like near a spawn to try to get us and everything like that. We're in the woods. People start coming into the woods. Danny drops one. I start shooting. I hit one. And then I hear Danny, who's to my left, go, hit. And I'm like, oh God. I was like, oh no. I looked at my watch. I was like, we have 8 minutes left. It was like, it was like 11 minutes. I was like, Danny, I was like, no. And so basically, I was hunkered down and I held out. And I am so glad because sometimes I don't think about putting my pistol on my hip. I'm so glad I put my pistol on my hip for this one. I'm behind a tree and I have to deal with like 4 guys. One of them's one of their LMG gunners. So one of their guys comes behind a tree and like I pop up behind a tree, start shooting. He goes back and I realize I'm not shooting any BBs. My mag's out. And I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, I have my pistol. So I dropped my gun, pulled my pistol, dropped him, dropped one more, and then dropped the LMG gunner. And I think the other guy was able to... I'll hit the other guy first with my rifle. Then I dropped the other 3 with my pistol. There was a lull. Danny goes, Chris, throws me his pistol because mine was out. Throws me his, and I was like waiting, and I was like, I have a weapon. And I was like, I put it down in front of me, changed my mag really quick, and like I left the pistol in front of me, had my rifle, and I was like, I don't know how much ammo's left in this mag because it was just one of my other ones. I waited. It hit 5:30. We didn't hear the air horn, and Danny and I are on the radio going, Harrison, that's Index, blow the horn, blow the damn horn. he goes, I know, I have the horn in my hand right now. And we're like, well, it's 5:31, blow it. He waited 2 minutes, and we heard the horn go. And we were like, oh, okay. So we didn't capture it then, and that was like the dinner break. And I went up to him and told him like why I was yelling at him to call it, and he just starts cracking up.
So it doesn't sound like you did a whole lot of commanding, I guess. Like, well, what was like, as far as you're aware, like what was your team doing while you chuckleheads were on top of the hay barn, like shooting at the other team? Like, what's everybody else doing? Because you said like when you came back, like you realized basically everybody was gone, right? So obviously nobody was relaying that information to you while you were doing that.
Yeah. I think all the objectives at that point were pretty much done. So it's just kind of like fighting each other and like trying to get the commanders. That's really what it came down to. Was like once the objectives had been completed, it was like try to get these commanders because they're worth a lot of points, and they can be captured multiple times, like within a segment. So you could capture a commander 2-3 times and end up with 1,500 points. And so that's kind of what the task was after that, and that's why like Dana and I kind of just wanted to get into the gunfight because we were kind of bored. Like, because we were in the beginning, we were actually doing commanding. Like, we were sending guys up the hill where they needed to be reinforced, or pushing guys a certain route through the woods. Like, we were actually controlling people and like sending guys where they would go, and groups of people, and like saying like, "Hey, I need 5 guys." Danny did an airdrop to the hayloft earlier, like at the half hour into the game. At that point, like chose 5 guys. One of them was a sniper, and like airdropped them into the hayloft. Like, so we did some commanding, and we were like, let's just go do some like, fun Ghost Recon type stuff, sneak through the woods, like, see how far we can get. Because we were like, we're probably gonna get halfway and get hit. We didn't realize we were gonna get to the hayloft and hold it for 30 minutes. So
for real.
Yeah, and so it was kind of like we wanted a break from commanding. Like the guys knew at that point most of the objectives were done, and it was just trying to get to Kate. And that's what we told everybody. Like, I think most of the objectives are done. Like, we need to get Kate. That's going to be a priority because that's going to be a big points boost going into the night. And we made up a lot of points that time because we did capture her that one time. So we after the second segment, we were only down about, I want to say 70 or like 100 points, something like that. It wasn't a large margin, but we were down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys knew, like I said, like Dan and I wanted to get into the fight. Like that's just how he and I kind of operate. Because I want to say he is one of the like people in charge of the team he's on. I don't know if he's a founder or not, but it's kind of like me, where like, like Jimmy and I are co-founders. Like we're the ones who kind of run the team. I think Danny's pretty high up there on his team. So like we're used to running small teams and like being in the fight. So like commanding was like different. Like both he and I were like, we want to get into the fight, but like it was okay to like command. Like I enjoyed it. It was fun, and like I'm more of that. I'm like most people have watched Band of Brothers. I like Lieutenant Spears type commander, where like I'm like running around the field like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like that's where I like to command, and like I told Jimmy, I was like, well, we'll see how this go, and he texted me. I was like, just don't yell. He goes, lead from the front. Don't like be back. He goes, move through ambushes, assault the ambush, obviously stuff that like I know and we talk about, but like I implemented that too. Like we got bogged down, and I was like, don't stop. Like there's a lot of people like stop when they get into an engagement and they want to shoot back and everything like that. And it's like, don't do that. Push through the ambush while providing fire. Like have part of your force provide support by fire while the rest of you moves and bound up with the entire group. That way you're assaulting through the ambush, but you're not getting bogged down and stopping.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to implement that, which we did, and it was good. But yeah, it was just kind of, a blast. And then night game comes, and it's like, how many people are going to go out? Who can last the night game? Type stuff. And like, then there were objectives at the night. And the night game, we swapped spawns. And Harrison made new objectives, which were actually a lot harder in the night game.
So how many, just for curiosity, like how many people were rocking nods? Because you mentioned like pay to win. So was it like you guys had nods and they did not have any nods?
They had one guy with nods. We had 4. But that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit of a tall order.
I was the only one on the field with nods the first night. And like I told Kate like before, I was like, because her and I were talking, like she got hit up by us and we were getting pushed back in our spawn because we only had like maybe 15 guys. And I was like, hey Kate, I was like how many guys do you have? Like her and I had a conversation, and then we got talking, and I was like, just wait till it gets dark. And she's like, why? I was like because I got nods. And she goes, oh gosh, she's like, you're gonna come sneak behind me and just like randomly come up behind me one time and like get me that way. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So as soon as it got dark, I did that. I put on my nods and like I went through the woods like on my own and came up completely behind. There were like 7 of them hunkered down in building 7. And I was like, I could hear Kate in there, and I was like, this is gonna be really funny. So I just went through the woods, caught as close as I could. I just started ripping rounds and dropped people. I assaulted up the building, dropped a bunch of people, like shot her in the butt, like dropped like I had like one guy got me through a window because there were so many dead people in there. I couldn't see who was alive, and he shot me, and I was like, oh. She didn't know who it was, and when I put my deadlight on, walked in, I was like, I just went behind her and I just went, I told you I was gonna get you, and she goes, are you kidding me? Like I had my nods down, and everything, but yeah, so the night portion was like, and I told Danny before, I was like, when I found out we had 4 guys with nods, I told Danny, I was like, we're going to come back in the nighttime. I was like, we are going to own the night. I was like, we'll be good. And he's like, all right, if you think so. We captured their second in command once, and we captured Kate twice. Plus, we won so we got 1,300 points for that. Plus the objectives at night, where basically we had to take a bomb and go to 1, 2, 3, 4 different sites and hold each site for 10 minutes. They had to do the same thing. We didn't know what each other's sites were.
Mm-hmm.
So we're running, and like what I did, and I actually did commanding that night, Phil, was so I was like, hey, we're going to go, the first objective, I was like, we're going to go to the hayloft, which is basically right down from our spawn. I was like, I want the rest of you guys, there were like 3 of us that went there. I was like, I want the rest of you guys to push to the next objective, which was the helicopter. I was like, push to the helo, secure that. Once this 10 minutes is up, that's where we're going to go. And we're basically just going to be booking this. And so that's what we did was we did that. And then other guys were like, do you want us to go anywhere else? I was like, yes. I was like, if you could take a few guys and secure the sniper tower, like that's the 3rd objective. That's where we're going after. So there were 5 objectives, 5 buildings we had to get. That's what we're going after. So I basically pushed guys forward multiple objectives to that way have a secure path of like, hey, that 10 minutes is up. We're beelining it right to the next one. That 10 minutes is up. We're beelining it to this one. Once we were at the helo and the cyber tower, we started getting in firefights because their objectives are coming closer to ours, and we kind of met towards the middle. And I basically told Danny, I was like, hey, I'm taking 4 guys. One's an LMG. I was like, we're going to building 8, which was the 4th objective. I was like, we're going to take that, and then we're going to push to, building 7, which was the last one. We got all those and lit off building 7 first. So we got the points for completing the objective and an extra 200 for doing it first. But, and this is where we got our second, we got the second of the event Kate captured. The first one was during the day. I got her that night because she's moseying across the giant open area, and I'm sitting behind a hay bale with my rifle up at building 7 because we were trying to push in there, and I sent guys through the woods, and I was like, I looked, it was getting dark, and I didn't have my nods on because they brought lights out onto the field, kind of like Iron Horse.
Yeah.
Giant floodlights that lit up certain areas. They had 3 of them, and Harrison lit up 2 sides of the field and then the center. And I was like, thanks for killing my nods vibe, Harrison. he goes, come on. I was like, all right. And there were still shadow bits that you could run with your nods, but I was sitting behind a hay, but I didn't have my nods on. And I see this figure come moving across, and I could kind of make out, I was like, they're not wearing sleeves, they're in a tank top. I was like, that's Kate. And there was a ponytail. And I was just like, huh. And I went, and I hit her. She called her hit. And I was like, okay, now's the time. They didn't have a lot of guys in building 7. I think they had 2 of their guys in building 7 and one of our guys who was hit because we had people who were hit because we had our box in there. So I go clear the building, and I Kate's on the side of the building, and I'm completely exposed trying to get her. I grab her. I felt kind of bad. I grabbed her by her plate carrier and just yeeted her back and dragged her behind the building. I went onto I was so hyped up at this point because I was like, we got to capture her to get these points. It's like I went on the radio and I was like, I need another PAX here at building 7 right now. And Danny comes back. He goes, what's a PAX? He goes, what are you talking about? He's like, do you mean a person? And I was like, all right, non-military. I need non-military lingo. And so one of our guys was like, hey, medic. And I was just like, you're on my team. I went and healed him as the second in command. And I was like, grab her. We're going now. I went on the radio. I was like, I have Kate. We're moving back to spawn right now. I need support over here, support by fire. And our guys basically, there were 7 of them that came over that hill to help us bring her back. But she had walked back normally to the spawn the first time during the day when she got captured. When Danny was captured, Danny kind of was dragging his feet and stuff like that, and would go kind of limp and not really help out. And so she was like, I'm just gonna do what Danny did. I was like, I will physically drag you. She goes, wait. Corey, who was one of the refs, she goes, get a video of this. So she just let her feet go, and me and the other guy were dragging her by her plate carrier. We got up to the top of the hill, and Danny's like, I'm just gonna fireman carry her. So Danny throws her on on a fireman carry and starts to run back with her, and I'm running back with him as well, because we had to have 2 people
right.
physically having hands on. So I ran back with him as well. So that's when we captured her the first time. We then get into a small firefight. It's just her XO, another speed softer, so gun shoots faster. He moves a lot. We captured him, and as we brought him back to the spawn, we see a whole group of our guys moving somebody down the hill, and we're like, oh, and they're like, hey, we got Kate again. I was like, we just got 1,300 points for this right now. I was like, that is crazy. But speaking of never being captured, and I did that very intelligently, where that time I tried to get Danny, I was hit, and their guys had come up and I was like, oh. And no, this is the night portion. No, no, whatever it was. I was at our respawn basically, or their respawn. Their guys had come up. No, it was I was at our respawn. Their guys had come up. They healed Kate to like take her back, like because she could be buddy aided. And the guy's like, "All right, come with me." And I started walking. I was like, "Wait, what am I doing?" And I just dropped. Like I just went limp, and like he couldn't hold me. I went to the ground, and I was like, "I am not helping you at all." Kate's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "You're gonna have to drag me." She goes, "I can't do that." She goes, "You weigh how much?" And I was like, "I don't know, like 250 in gear." And she goes, "Yeah, we can't do that." And so what happened was their teammates threw a grenade and killed them. And I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And I was like, "I'm currently dead already, so it doesn't matter." I stood up. My 3 minutes was up. They didn't know I wasn't like dead. And so I just took out my pistol and went and dropped them. They're like, "Wait." And I was like, "I bled out and I'm at my respawn. I'm back in the game." I was like, "You guys are all dead now. Like, don't be dumb." That was the only time I ever like almost got captured, but outsmarted them. Also, their team just idiots for throwing a grenade at their own guys.
I mean, listen, and you got lucky, right? Like you were at your spawn. If you weren't at your spawn, it might have been different. So,
Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, like pay to win nods sort of aside, and those sort of shenanigans. I guess what were some of the player levels like? Because you mentioned just now, like you're asking for a PAX. I don't know what that is because I didn't spend any time in the military. So if you're like, Phil, I need a PAX, I'm like, sorry, bud, I don't know, right? So like, how did you find that went? Like, obviously, in that moment, that's a different sort of situation because you're in it and it's just like brain, like head empty, kind of whatever. But just in general, how was it working with like all these different player levels and different experiences compared to what you might have seen and done at Balahack, for example?
Um, Balak is definitely more organized as far as like platoons and squads when they do their milsims. And they just have sheer numbers of people that go out. Like there's 80 on each side minimum. So like Balak has a lot of people that go out. This was 80 total.
Yeah.
And like I want to say there was maybe two people, including me, that had military experience. Actually, one of the guys who I'm trying to recruit onto the team, he's older. He's like in his 50s. But the dude plays competitive ice hockey. Played ice hockey in college at like the University of Oregon. And he was a ranger. So I'm not worried about this guy's fitness level like whatsoever. Like I played with him and he was good, but like I think he was the only other actual former military out there playing. Yeah. I think it was just him and I. So it's like, and the thing is like, you have that, but then you also have like Danny. He works in marketing, but he's been playing airsoft for 15 years. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, you have these, you obviously the military experience in airsoft doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be great. I mean, you could have done your entire career in the military as a lawyer. Doesn't mean you're a great shooter, right? But I guess my point is more about like, what about like player experience levels? Because Danny and like Kate doing like speed softs and stuff. Like, how are you sort of like getting everyone on the same page, right? So that you're having a positive experience rather than, sort of like struggling with each other because like you're doing stuff that you don't want to be doing or vice versa, right?
Yeah. It's funny. You can kind of tell people's experience out here.
Okay.
It's weird. You can tell like if they're a newbie or if they've had, some amount of time or if they're like, me and Danny have been playing for 15 years. Like you can tell. Then you can also tell the people who have that large or long airsoft experience and who have the military background just by like the way they move and kind of like communicate and like the words that they use, especially for the military background. The play level varied. there actually, I would say one of the MVPs on our team for the weekend, if not the MVP, was like a kid who was maybe 12. This little dude was, you know, balls to the walls, chest out, like the whole day, like running around, getting into firefights on his own. And he was short enough that when he ran, he was under the cover.
Yeah.
So it was great. But he would get into firefights like on his own and win some of them. And I was like, this kid's gotta only be playing airsoft for like a couple months or like maybe a year. But like he didn't stop. He didn't quit. It was
Mhm.
great. And it's great to see that too. And it's like, even though like I notice this, even though guys don't have a lot of experience were out there, they actually listened and wanted to like learn from me and Danny because we have that experience. They knew I was military, and it's like they kind of like listened to, not just because we were the commanders, but like they'd be like, "Hey, like where do you want me to go? Like what do we need to do? What's the objectives? Like how do you want to run this?" And they listened, and we'd tell them, and they'd go do it, and they were
Mhm.
like happy and fun to it. Would be like, "Hey, like Danny and I would literally be like, who wants to run up that hill, like get there quick?" And like we'd have guys be like, "I can do it, like it's fine." And like some of the guys were like, "Kale's like, who wants to like go through the woods or go to this area?" And like they'd be like, "Yeah, let's do it." When we had like the like more like set objectives we had to complete, like the 5 buildings, that's when really like the command side of things took over, and I was like, we're doing this to complete like these objectives. And like there was no qualms about it, or like people wouldn't really go off on their own. Or if they were gonna go off their own, they'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go up to like the top of this hill to like hold that area," and I'm like, "Go for it."
Yeah.
It was never like somebody was going off on their own to do their own thing that wasn't going to benefit us in any way possible. If they wanted to do their own thing, there was always a reason that was like, I want to do this. One, because I want to do it, and two, just because like it's gonna help and benefit all of us in a long run. And like that's the thing, is like a command aspect that I kind of like. It's different than like the squad is. Like the squad is very like you're kind of in together to like what, maybe 10 people max, like at AMS, maybe 13, but like you're there and you're kind of holding everything down together, and you're kind of like telling guys like where to go and like where they need. With like the whole command aspect of the team, it's different. You have a lot more people, and like some people want to go off and do their own thing, but as long as it benefits like the rest of the team, go for it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like with the command, is you got to look at the long run of things. Like we weren't going to be up to that top of that hill for half an hour, but I knew if we lost that, we couldn't get up there. So if somebody wanted to go up there and hold it down and do that on their own, perfect. Like I hope you
Mhm.
can last half an hour up there, but like,
But yeah,
you know,
it's taking that strategic view, right? Around, okay, well, what we want to do this, but what are the steps that lead us to being able to do that? How do we accomplish that? So at the end of the day for you, like the last day, like how did it all shake out ultimately? Because you had another couple hours on Sunday.
yeah.
And then sort of the final points tally, and pretty sure you won the day, right?
So Danny left Sunday morning, so he didn't play. So I took command again.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely demolished them. We had maybe 12 guys. I think they had like 4 or 5. A lot of their players had left. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we captured Kate like 3 times. And like it was bad, but like the whole point of Sunday was there were some objectives, and I can't remember what they were. Oh, it was a case. We had to go blow up 3 different sites. You got extra points if you blew it up first. Um, so we did those, and it was like normal site, kind of middle site. Or no, sorry, it was ours were 2 bridges in the woods, and then of course it was the farthest building on the opposite side of the map in the back of their side. So they had the same thing. Was they had 2 objectives? I don't know what theirs were, and then it was the hayloft, which was all the way on our side. So it was like, how do we get that accomplished? And so we kind of figured out what their second objective was based on the intel from our guys in the field, and we stalled them getting to that sniper tower. And I was like, all right. I took 2 or 3 of my guys after that second objective, and I said, push up to building 9, try to take that out as much as you can. Me, and 2 of our guys went to the hayloft, and we were just like, we're gonna sit in here because we're gonna be that kind of like deterrence until they like if they try to come and attack. Because I go, I have an airstrike in my back pocket. I was like, if they come close, I was like, I'm just gonna drop an airstrike on everybody, and it's gonna be done. They got close once. We were able to gunfight it out and like get them, and then like kind of kick them out that way. So I didn't have to use the airstrike. I actually didn't use the airstrike at all, but I basically was saying, as our guys was coming back to respawn, I was keeping the 3 of us there, and I was sending our entire force up to that building 9 with our technical. Which, by the way, Saturday we had a technical. It was just a guy's Jeep, and we were actually, instead of using it as an LMG in the back, we were using it as cover. He would drive up, and our guys would run behind it, or we were using it to ferry guys back.
Right, yeah.
We also used it when we captured Kate to bring her back to spawn. Rather than having to run her back, we're like, we'll just throw her in the Jeep and drive back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we kind of use it. The Sunday, we had a guy basically it was an AK-74. He put a drum mag on. He goes, can I use this as an LMG? And Harrison's like, yeah. He's like, you're good to use as an LMG. He goes, you guys have 1. I think they have like 4. And so we were able to get a second LMG on Saturday. So he did the same thing Sunday. So I basically told them, like, everybody pushed to building 9. Like, we need to blow this thing. We're going to be in the hayloft. Kate figured out we were in there, and that was her last objective. Harrison comes on the radio, like, towards the end. He goes, Chris, I got good news and I got bad news. And I go, what's the good news? And then all of a sudden I hear and see firework go off over by building 9. And I was like, I'm guessing the good news is we got that last objective. And he goes, yeah. The bad news is you're all airstriked and you're dead in there. And I was like, okay. Like, she can't capture me. So like, we walked down, and their team had pushed through the woods after our team basically got pretty much killed trying to get that objective, but we still got it. Their team started to push through the woods, and I was like, all right. So I sprinted back to our spawn, which was just like maybe 100 yards away. Sprinted back, and I was like, hey, Harrison, I still have that airstrike, right? And he goes, yeah. He goes, you can't drop airstrikes on objectives. He goes, Kate tried to do that with building 9. I told her you can't do that on objectives. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. He goes, you're going to have to, fight her for it to get out of it, which, I understand it. Like, I understand the logic there. But we ended up going in there, and we just had sheer numbers and just overwhelmed them and took them out. So they didn't actually end up getting that last objective. And she was up there, and that's when we captured her for the second time that day. And I was just like, oh, man. I was like, I feel so bad. All of her team walked off to where it was just her and her second command on the field. There was just 2 of them. So what they ended up doing was they got her dad, Jason, who goes out and plays sometimes too. And he's great. He doesn't wear anything. He just wears like his normal clothes, like of the team color, throws like 3 grenades in his pockets and runs out there with a replica, which is like a $2,500 replica. Like,
My God.
I was like, oh, okay, Jason. Runs out with that. No headgear or anything. Well, like while the 3 of us were in the hayloft and everything was going on at build 9, he tried to sneak up there, and I saw him coming, and he like goes to like pull a grenade. I was like, don't do it, Jason. And I just went, whap, whap, and I got him in the head. I felt kind of bad, but I was like, that's all that was there for me to shoot at, because I was shooting down, and he was behind a hay bale trying to throw a grenade. But they got him, and then like the other 2 admins who were out there to like go be on their team.
Yeah.
For like a little bit, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, to help her out and like to give us some fun things to do. And like Harrison, basically, after we captured her, like he told her to go straight back to her respawn because he had like another objective for her. He didn't tell me what it was. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're all in the field trying to figure out what's going on. I got intel from my guys. I was like, hey, they sprinted from the respawn up to building 9. I was like, all right, let's keep going. Let's push. We pushed up to the middle. And I was like, there's like 20 minutes left. I was like, I wonder if Harrison told her like to blow up our spawn, and like then like he would come over the con and be like, hey, your fob has been destroyed, like everybody on your team only has 1 life, kind of like to even everything out. No, they did the speed soft thing and sprinted down like the like gravel road that we can use, sprinted past our spawn to get to that hayloft. And all of our guys are like, because we went back to our spawn, we pushed back as they were running down because we saw them running down the road. And then like I get intel, like, hey, they're like pushing towards the hayloft. So we all moved there. They were up there. I left 3 guys in the hayloft purposely, but they got dropped. We were up there and we were like, they had set the timer. They're all hidden. Like one of our guys tried to climb on the hay bales and like drop them, got hit. One of our guys just pulls out a grenade, chucks it through the window, and kills everybody in there. I was like, yep, that works too. And so like they came down and like that ended up being like the end of the game.
So what would you change about how you ran command for this op? If you had to do it all over again, like what would you change?
I would say planning and timing could have been. That's the one thing I would change, and I would try to organize people in squads if I could. But again, it's hard because you get walk-ons as well. So I don't know
Yeah.
how much like pre-planning that could happen then. Um, I don't know. I don't think I'd really change much just because it's so hard to, with the way they have everything set up, it's so hard to like really structure out like an entire command.
Hmm.
The one thing I think I would change is because then again it goes into pre-planning is comms.
Yeah.
We
Well,
didn't really have comms with any of our team, but it's like how many people actually have radios out there? It's hard. It's different.
it's interesting because it reminds me of our field in a lot of ways because well firstly we do deal with walk-ons for sure, and it's hard to get people to organize for the event we have coming up in May. Even getting people to organize in squads for one of the teams is like basically impossible, whereas one of the other teams that is like on the green team, they have an actual team and they're figuring their own stuff out. But on the flip side, it's when you start providing an opportunity for people to organize themselves. Sometimes you might only get one group of like 4 or 5 people. It's fine enough. But then the next time, maybe you're like, oh, I saw what those guys did last time. I want to do the same thing. Or I want to be on a squad, or I bought a radio. Because I remember like the first game that we ran, we had everyone, we've been playing forever, so we have radios. Some players are like, oh my God, you guys use radios? I'm like, yeah, dog, you need a radio. And then by the next event, you had at least 25% of the players were using radios. And
Yeah.
now at most of our events, almost everybody, I would say, who's a regular at the field, right, has a radio on their kit, right? Whether they use it or not is a different conversation, but
Yeah.
everyone has one. Right. So like there's also a place, to your point of like, it's kind of hard to do, but you also kind of have to start somewhere. Right.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the things is it kind of opened my eyes to like because I chose Baofeng channels that we use normally,
Mm-hmm.
like in the 421s. A lot of people that have radios out there just have the like Motorola ones they got at Academy or whatever, and you can run those with a Baofeng, but they have to be certain FRS channels that are
Yeah.
compatible with Baofeng channels, and like they're 1 through 14.
Yeah.
I have that list. I have the like chart that says which channels, and I forgot that they're so high up there. They're in like almost the 500s. That like I didn't think about that ahead of time. Of like I just pre-positioned like, hey, whoever has a radio is probably gonna have a Baofeng, right? This is Airsoft. Like I'm used to Battle Hack. Everybody has Baofengs. AMS. Everybody has Baofengs. Like a lot of people are running Baofengs.
Yeah.
No, I think it was like me and Danny and like one of the guys on his team that had Baofengs. I think
Yeah.
like maybe 4 of us had Baofangs, but like that's it. Other people who had radios were just running the Motorola like classic like walkie talkies.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a planning thing in the future where I can pre-look at that chart and be like, hey, I'm gonna run this as my comms channel with my team. That way, people who have radios, because people were wanting to get on our comms channel, and I was like, they would come up to me after game start, and I was like, I've already established this comms channel, like I can't change it because I've already have some like somebody that I'm like we're communicating with. It's like that's something I need to pre-program. Is basically like I'm going to use this channel as like the like platoon channel and make sure it's compatible with a number for the Motorola channels.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that is one thing that I would change. But again, like I haven't ran into that in a long time, just because when was the last time I played with somebody with a Motorola radio? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting having to learn like the particularities of a brand new airsoft community that's sort of unfamiliar to you. But by the sounds of it, I mean, it sounds like you had a good time, and it sounds like an event that you're probably going to end up repeating. And hopefully, if you end up staying in Indiana, like this is somewhere where you're going to be able to help that community grow and develop as well, because it sounds like there's a lot of runway for this community. Well, this field. I mean, it's really interesting to have a situation where you have a field that's 160 acres with 80 players. Usually, it's kind of the reverse situation where you have a field that's a postage stamp and you're trying to cram 120 players into it or whatever, right? So it's kind of like the Uno reverse situation of most airsoft fields. But this sounds like you have a lot of space to help that community develop some really interesting new milsim experiences that maybe they haven't experienced, either from like an objective standpoint, but also from an organization, right? Like, do you have like different weapon classes, right? Or replica classes, I should say. Do you have like the squad assignments could be a big deal, right? Different vehicle rules could be a big deal, right? Like lots and lots of opportunity. And if the field owner is open to that, it sounds like you have some good opportunity in front of you for all that.
Yeah, no, definitely staying in Indiana, building a house here, in the process of that, so not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
like I have like Harrison's so open to like just having conversations about stuff. Like the kid, he's a 20-year-old kid. Like, but like it'll be fun. Like they have a big enough player base of people that come from all over that like if we did get a big milsim, like the one I wrote, like that could be a large scale milsim, especially on 160 acres. The owner of the field's already talked to somebody about getting a Huey.
Yeah.
And like knows the price of the Huey, has already plotted out the 4 places that the Huey can land and take off from. So he wants to get a helicopter in there. He wants to get Alphonse back to his events. And like they can develop that field so well because they're in the construction industry that like they have ideas. And like I've told Harrison just some of the ideas that I have, like 1 or 2 based on the tour, and he goes, "That's a great idea. We should do that." And it's like you have somebody that's so open to the outside community coming in, and it's like it's funny because it's they're so big on battle hack and stuff, and I'm just like, he's completely changed that field since you guys went there. He goes, "Really?" I'm like, that field is not as it once was. I was like, it's pretty cleared out with Connex boxes now. And he goes, "Really?" I'm like, yeah, it's still fun. It's a great field, but like it's flat. It's a linear flat field like most airsoft fields are. It's a big rectangle, and they flattened it out and they put buildings and everything in there.
Yeah.
That's not what theirs is. It's a hilly farmland. Like there's flat areas. There's a creek that runs through it. There's a hilltop that you could put a fob on as a defense. Like they have unlimited ability to create mini fields that could turn into like for like day play and then turn into a massive field for milsim. Like they have the ability to do it to where like it's just kind of like they need that extra kick in the pants. And like I am more than happy to be that person to come in with these ideas of like I'm coming in from an outside perspective. Like their field could truly be a great field, and it's something I look forward to doing with them and like talk to them. Like I've talked about ideas of like they have a helicopter, they have a little bird that they use. Get a Rescue Randy, which is like 125-pound like dummy.
Yeah.
And it's like use that and use it as like for like a down pilot game. Like
Yeah.
it's like the potential there is almost unlimited for what they can do, and they're not like they're not stalled by any like environmental laws or anything like Balahack is for like cutting down trees and stuff. It's basically free reign. It's the guy's land. He owns it.
Yeah, well, listen, Chris, it was great to have you on. Lots of stuff for us to discuss, and looking forward to hearing more about this field and some of the the milsims that you're going to be running or helping them run, hopefully, in the near future. So thanks again for being on, and guys, thank you so much for listening. That's all I've got for you this week, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.